I'm big into making predictions. Not only is it part of a lot of what I do on this channel, is I predict the future success or the future failures of college players at the next level when I'm talking about dynasty prospects. It's also fun to be the first one right about something, but you have to be honest. You have to be honest when you're wrong about something. And one of the big predictions I made earlier in this offseason was that Keon Coleman of the Florida State Seminoles was going to be probably the most polarizing wide receiver in this draft class. And I gotta tell you, that's not what I've seen so far. The guy that actually a lot of people, I would say it's a 50-50 split so far. From what I've seen personally, I've seen a lot of doubt about Rome Odunze of the Washington Huskies. Now, Rome Odunze, I know I get a lot of flack for how I pronounce his name. We're talking about Rome Odunze today. And I want to discuss whether or not he's going to be a bust. Because that is exactly what I have seen from a lot of people in the Dynasty community who are asking questions about Rome Odunze. So this is obviously a new channel exclusively for Dynasty Fantasy Football. So please go down there, drop a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support if you get value from this video today. So I wanted to do this video by comparing him to two NFL players that I have heard the most comparisons to when it comes to the negatives and the people who look at Rome Odunze as a future bust. The two guys I've heard the most, their names the most associated with Rome Odunze is Quentin Johnston of the Los Angeles Chargers and Treylon Burks of the Tennessee Titans. So those two guys are very interesting because they're still younger players, but we've obviously, some of us felt like we've seen enough of, especially with Treylon Burks, who's coming into his third year at this point. And there's been nothing good with Treylon Burks. And with Quentin Johnston, obviously his rookie season was just an utter disaster, right? And that's the blueprint that we have to follow. And a lot of us are wondering, well, is Rome Odunze following in that path? Or is he actually going to be a solid dynasty player? Because much like Quentin Johnston, much like Treylon Burks, Rome Odunze's draft capital in rookie drafts is going to be very high. So we need to scrutinize him today. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through my wide receiver prospect model when it comes to dynasty rookies. Now, I have been developing this prospect model for years and years now, and I have found the 4 most transmittable traits that a college wide receiver needs to translate to NFL success. So we're going to go through each of the 3 players' scores and where exactly they scored in each level of the prospect model. So the first thing that we need to discuss here is what was the college breakout year. Now, what this is going to tell me is how early one of these wide receivers was at the very least contributing at a very high level on their college team. So on this one, the earlier, the better it's going to be. When I get a senior year breakout, that just shows me that he's playing against talent that's 4 or 5 years younger than him. And he needs to have situations set up for him in the right way. Whereas if I get an 18 or 19-year-old breakout, that shows me that they could compete with the best of the best right away. With Rome Odunze, he was a junior year breakout. Yeah, that's a C+ grade for me. That is not what I am looking for when it comes to this college breakout year. Like I said, I want to see him break out as a freshman. I want to see him break out as a sophomore. So a lot of the concern about this is, is he just kind of a system player? And I have raised that myself. So I wanted to line things up here. His breakout year, his junior year, was in 2022. Well, coincidentally, or not coincidentally, Kalen DeBoer, now the head coach at Alabama because he just took that job, Kalen DeBoer became Washington's head coach in 2022. And Michael Penix became the quarterback in Washington in 2022. Is it a coincidence that that was the same year that Rome Odunze broke out? We could have a discussion, but it is what happened with Rome Odunze. So now with Quentin Johnston, he had a better sophomore breakout year. So a sophomore breakout is what I am looking for in that particular metric right here. Now, Quentin Johnston, you'll go to a different site or go to a different fantasy football analyst on YouTube, and they'll tell you that their freshman year was the breakout year for Quentin Johnston. Well, here's my thing. You can't be considered a breakout until you cross 500 yards, in my opinion. That's just what I believe. Let me know if you think differently. I don't consider you a breakout if you're getting 400-yard receiving season. That's just not how I look at things. Treylon Burks was also a sophomore breakout, and he actually took a massive leap in production in his sophomore season. So both those guys, they had the better college breakout year than Rome Odunze did. So it's not that this particular thing is everything, right? A college breakout year is not everything when it comes to these prospects. Tank Dell, it took him years in college to break out. Jaden Reed, he was a freshman breakout. There's a lot of great players who have come into this league that were early breakouts or late breakouts. This is not everything. This is just a piece of the puzzle right here. So now move on to the number 2 thing. And in my opinion, it is the most important part of this prospect model. I am talking about the film breakdown grade of all of these prospects right here. Now, what I am specifically looking for on film when it comes to the wide receiver position is I want to know how many layers they have to their game. Do they show a consistent ability to get open over the middle? AKA, how good are they at separating? Can they separate, create consistent separation with footwork, with strength of their body? Can they do that, go over the middle of the field? Can they go outside? Can they break outside? Next thing, are they big play threats? Do they have speed? Are they just big play threats? How many layers are there to their game? Do they have sticky hands? Are they short distance, middle distance, long distance route runners? Can they run a full route tree? That's what I'm looking for here. Now, I'm evaluating every single wide receiver prospect, as many as I can, in this offseason, and that is happening on my Patreon. Used to be on YouTube. I got in trouble for putting it on YouTube, so it is on Patreon now. So if you want to watch me put this into action and study these Dynasty rookie wide receivers on Patreon, join the Patreon today. The link is in the comments below. Now, with Rome Odunze, he's a little bit of an outlier actually for me when it comes to his film breakdown grade. He got an A grade, which is great. Like, that's awesome. I'm not going to take that away from him. But what I want to do, I do want to highlight this. Rome Odunze is an outlier for me in this situation because Rome Odunze actually doesn't have that many layers to his game. He's not a full route tree type of guy. If you watch Rome Odunze a full game, you watch his film, not his highlights, his film, even his highlights show this. The majority of his damage is done down the field. Big plays. That's what we saw with Quentin Johnston. Except I didn't see even nearly as good as from Quentin Johnston. He got a B grade in the film breakdown. So why is Rome Odunze an outlier? Why did he get an A if he's a little bit limited in his film? Well, the reason is because he excels at the one thing. He excels at it. His contested catch rate, you can see on the screen, is historically high. You do not see that from many college prospects. That's like what Jamar Chase used to do at LSU. His last second ability to just make a play on the ball, deep, get in front of the corner, make him look stupid, it's second to none. So when you are limited in your film and when your route tree is limited, you better be excelling at what you can do. And Rome Odunze does do that. That's why he has an A grade. And Quentin Johnston, who is a player that I got lots of pushback from my take on Quentin Johnston last offseason. When I evaluated him on my main channel, Football Fanalysts Network, I got tons of pushback for saying that I did not like Quentin Johnston's film. He was limited to 3 routes: curl routes, wide receiver screens, and deep balls. And he didn't do any of them exceptionally well. So I had problems with Quentin Johnston's film. Treylon Burks did have an A-. I did like his film. I thought he was a big play threat who could go underneath. He could go across the middle of the field. There was a lot of things I did like about Treylon Burks. Going back in time, I probably would have graded him a B+. I still did like his college film. There was a lot to like, in my opinion, about Treylon. So that's the biggest piece to me, is the film breakdown. That, to me, is going to, a lot of times, dictate whether or not I believe that player is going to be good at the next level. And just to highlight some guys that I found very good last year through film breakdown: Tank Dell, Jaden Reed, Josh Downs. There's plenty of examples of guys that you can find through the film breakdown process. Now, the next thing, I also find this very important, is what was their target share? And what I narrow it down to is their last season in college football. when it should be at its highest, theoretically? What was their target share? So essentially what this number is going to show me, without even watching the film, I can really tell how diverse a player's route tree is and how diverse and how many layers they have to their game just by the target share alone. Because if they can run all the routes on the route tree, their target share is going to be higher because they can get the ball in so many different ways. Whereas if you have a Rome Odunze whose primary thing is to go deep, that's why he had a 12.7% target share. That's a D grade. That is not good. A 12.7% target share in 2023, that highlights that he does one thing very, very well, but it's only one thing. He doesn't go produce over the middle of the field. He does not do it. Why? Because he's not a great separator. That is a major concern. Make no mistake about this one. There's a major concern here when your target share coincides with what you can see on film when you watch the film with me on Patreon. This guy does not go over the middle of the field because he can't separate. He's not a Keenan Allen. He's not a Devontae Adams. He does not have excellent footwork that's going to create separation over the middle of the field. That's just not his game. So it needs to be recognized. And it was actually worse than Quentin Johnston's. Quentin Johnston had a 21.2% target share in his last season of 2022. That's a decent grade right there. That's about a B grade. So that's a pretty good target share right there. Treylon Burks, even better, 29.3. Almost a third of the targets went to Treylon Burks. So there are definitely things. If you're looking at this from a whole perspective, Treylon Burks, the breakout year, Rome Odunze, the breakout year, junior year, not great. That's not a great thing. He rebounds because he's great on film, because he does the one thing very, very well. He exceeds at what he does and what he is able to do. His target share, it comes back down to life. And the last thing that I'm looking for here is the NFL draft capital. This will determine how short or long of a leash that player is going to have at the NFL level. And that in turn is going to, of course, affect their dynasty value because a player who's on the bench is worth nothing. So obviously, Treylon Burks, Quentin Johnston, they're both first rounders. We're probably going to see Rome Odunze in the first round. I can't imagine a world where he's not a first round pick. How high he goes, I have no idea. Top 10, top 15, top 20, probably in that range somewhere. I would imagine he'll go top 10, top in the first round though. So let's assume that he goes first round. That's two really good traits here. First round grade in the NFL draft and a film breakdown grade of A. But the negatives here, they're pressing. Target share, a D grade at 12.7%, and his breakout year, a C+ grade because he was a true junior. So here's what I believe about Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze has a lot of qualities to like. I shouldn't even say a lot. He has a few good things about him that he does exceedingly well. His deep targets, it's not 50-50 with him. It's about 80-20. He's that good at adjusting late hands and making a play on the ball and going to score for a touchdown. He's excellent at that. He exceeds at it. This guy also makes plays underneath sometimes. Washington was creative with him. But that leads me to my concern. Was he a product of Kalen DeBoer's offensive system? And was he a product of how well he was with Michael Penix? It's worth questioning here. So I don't necessarily believe that Rome Odunze is going to be a dynasty bust, but I'm not ruling it out. Here's what I believe it hinges on entirely. I believe that Rome Odunze needs to go to a top offensive coach / offensive-minded head coach. This is a guy who would benefit very, very well from being in Buffalo with Josh Allen and their new coordinator, Joe Brady. Kansas City would be a great landing spot. Obviously, they're top teams. It's easy to say those type of teams, right? Just name a couple others. I'm not saying it's going to happen. The Los Angeles Rams with Sean McVay. The Green Bay Packers with Matt LaFleur. The San Francisco 49ers with Kyle Shanahan. Again, I'm not saying any of those things are going to happen. What I'm saying is that this guy needs a great offensive mind, because the reason why I like a guy like Malik Neighbors more than I like Rome Odunze is because Malik Neighbors has more versatility to his game. He can run more of a full route tree. So let's say that they both go to bad offensive situations. Well, the guy who has more in his bag, I believe, has a better chance of succeeding at the NFL level than the guy who goes through just as equally a bad situation, but he's limited. Look at Quentin Johnston. He had a horrific offensive situation last year. Now he's just, I don't believe, that great of a player, but his offense didn't help him. Treylon Burks, his offense certainly did not help him in Tennessee. Rome Odunze is limited. He does a couple things exceedingly well. But is this guy a surefire prospect? No. Is he a for sure bust? No. I think he needs the right offensive coach and the right offensive system to be in to maximize and recognize and use his strengths to their advantage as an offense. Because if he goes to a defensive coordinator, a defensive-minded head coach that just sees first-round capital, looked good in Washington, go do your thing. No coaching, no offensive system optimized for the player, that's going to be a problem for a guy who's more limited, like Rome Odunze is. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below. Very interested to hear what your feedback is on this particular topic, because I've seen a lot of dissent on this opinion right here. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you got value from this video today, and if you want to see some Dynasty trades that you guys sent me and evaluate those together, click on this video right here.